I think the connection between the local and the global is and must be a starting point on all discussions on global citizenship education. Otherwise, it becomes just an elitist concept available to some but not to others, particularly students in the global south, from developing countries. That's why I wrote a book, Global Citizenship Education in the Global South, because we wanted to understand how educators and their students understand and appreciate the concept from a global South perspective. That's another discussion that is important to bring in when we discuss global citizenship education. In order to be really global, has to embrace the local, has to be ethically oriented, as I argue in this book in Cambridge University Press, and then it has to really foster critical thinking. It has to help on discussions. It's a pedagogical platform that has to help us to really direct learners and individuals to understand the importance of artificial intelligence and new technologies, but also understand the good points, but also understand the bad points. So let's call it in this way, to speak frankly about the concept. But I'm really curious to learn from you, if that's okay, the question that I'd like to share with you, perhaps 2 or 3 people, because I think we will close at 1. 2 or 3 people from the audience, if you could tell us what are your thoughts on this highly debated notion of global citizenship education, that would be nice. Who wants to try, perhaps framing? Yes, please.
So this is something that is a really interesting question, I think, and I was thinking about it a lot recently because in my recent field work I was in Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa and Egypt. And one of the things that really struck me is the motivations of the people who take our scholarship programs. They are very patriotic feeling people. They all are very much influenced by their own local experiences before they're concerned about global issues in a lot of cases. The previous person I mentioned was interested in malaria prevention because that's a big problem in that particular part of East Africa. One of them was interested in protection against lightning strikes because that's a big problem in that part of the world. But the way that they're solving these problems has global impacts as well. So while they're solving local problems, they're also solving global problems too. Like, even though this person was initially interested in malaria prevention in Rwanda, the same method could potentially be used across the world. So even if she's not thinking about global citizenship education per se, she's still contributing to global goods, she's still saving lives, and she was using AI to do that. So I think we as educators, what we can do is give them the tools and the knowledge that they need to pursue AI in a responsible way that helps them solve both local and global issues.
Exactly, and I would add, this is a very important perspective, thank you, because I would add that another important issue is really to try to move the focus away from this all overwhelmingly oriented higher education fostering just skills for the international job market, important as they are, to a focus on more ethical values such as social justice. This is really needed, in my opinion. And so, when it comes to ethical values, critical values, this whole discussion on how our learners and individuals more in general can contribute to the common good by doing what you just said, then if we, encourage a focus on caring ethics, that's one of the principles I discuss in this book, Ethical Global Citizenship Education, then perhaps step by step we can also foster leaders who have a different perspectives on the world. Yes?
Brian, I teach here in Tokyo at Meiji University. I really like this question, how do we preserve our humanity? I think as a teacher teaching students, they do want to gravitate towards using AI. I think there needs to be something where we teach them, don't go to AI, be creative. We have to go through that process in order to be creative and to think of ideas. If we always shuffle it off towards AI, how are we being human that way? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, there needs to be, I think, something in the education system that says, this is the time to use AI, this is the time you should be using your own brain to come up with new ideas and be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another crucial point. Thank you for sharing that. I believe the capability of the educator or practitioner or someone who is involved with sharing pedagogical principles, educating, particularly in relation to young individuals, is really to be able to use the necessary wisdom to direct young learners to develop their own creativity and use, in case, AI as a tool to expand their own creativity. For example, because I do write a lot and I publish a lot of books and academic articles, sometimes really your creativity needs an input. Can be a draft, can be a title of a paper that AI provides 5-6 different options, and you look at these options and says, okay, which one is really in tune with my own, way of approaching this topic? This is just perhaps a very basic example, but in that, toward that direction, perhaps AI is useful, but it cannot be a substitute for our own human potential, because that's the risk. Because it's already very complicated to foster young learners' human potential, what I call human empowerment, it becomes even more difficult for them to develop their human creativity if all they do is to use AI as a substitute. Yes?
I'm Karen Mitchell from the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, medical faculty. It's very interesting that in one of the questions, we said that most of the students were goal-oriented, but we actually caused them to become goal-oriented. Because when we set our exams and our evaluations and all of those things, we expect certain kinds of responses. And that is what is causing a lot of the issues we are seeing. It's not, AI is not, does not have that subjectivity that we have, right? But we are educating our students to become very objective, not using their creativity, not thinking critically, because we expect them all the time to respond very quickly to situations that require only a particular response. So for example, if you give an MCQ, how much critical thinking are you going to be expecting that student to come with that response based on the fact that it can only be one response? And so we, from very young, we have been teaching them to be goal-oriented, and you see it in the questions that was just answered. We said, oh, they're goal-oriented. But actually, we are causing them to become goal-oriented rather than process-oriented or critical thinkers or anything else because of what we are expecting.
Excellent. Yes, that's right. So this brings us back to what I was saying at the beginning of this forum. What is the real purpose of education? What is the real purpose of education? What is the real purpose of an ethically oriented global citizenship education? Perhaps, at least this is how I see it and how I write about this concept of global citizenship education from an ethical perspective. Perhaps one of the merits is exactly to bring back on the table discussions around the purposes of education. With, and this is evident, we have this overwhelmingly, this is very much encouraged from the university's leadership too, with this focus on skills. This focus on goals, this focus on fostering individuals for the international job market. Again, important as it is, it cannot be the main focus of an higher education and education in general. Because if we keep fostering individuals toward this direction, the risk is that we have leaders as the leaders we have today. This is my opinion. And I wrote about that in the Thank you. In The Emergence of the Ethical Engaged University, which is one of the books I wrote with a colleague, we make exactly this point. We need an ethical engaged university which looks not only at skills, development, but also ethical values development, which includes social justice, sustainability, and ethically oriented pedagogy, discussions around values, how we can make our societies more sustainable and work toward peace. And quickly, let me mention, Melina, that I have here 2 copies of the Ethical Global Citizenship Education. I'm happy to present these if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. So you need to show me a screenshot, just a joke, if you wish.